everyone. Welcome to Be Our Guest, our weekly virtual happy hour with industry professionals. I'm Janki, Artistic Director of Live and in Color. We are an artist-serving organization dedicated to developing new stage works that promote and celebrate diversity. Please consider making a donation to Live and in Color today to support our artists who continue to make socially inclusive and bold new work during this time. Just go to liveandincolor.org for more information. And now it's time to grab your cocktail and start leaving questions for our incredible guest in the comments. Please welcome an amazing actress. She has performed all over the country in the national tour of The Little Mermaid and won a Helen Hayes Award for her performance as Kim in Miss Saigon, amongst many other things. Please welcome the amazing Diana Huey.
Hello!
Cheers! Hello, my friends.
Hello!
Thank you for joining me. It's so good to see you.
Thank you for having. It's so nice to see you. It's been so long.
I know.
It's been so long. Have I not seen you since Xanadu?
Probably in person, yes.
Like in person. I mean, that's the gig back pre 2020 is, you know, you work with someone and you see them every day, and then you still feel like you see people because of social media, but you don't actually see anybody. Like,
no, it's crazy.
Everyone's working.
Where are you? Where are you tuning in from?
I'm currently tuning in from Astoria, New York, Queens.
All right. Is that where you've been sort of hanging out the past year?
I have been living in this apartment pretty much 24 hours a day for the last 13 plus, almost 14 months.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. It's insane. Now, is New York originally home for you?
No, I am originally from Mukilteo, Washington, which is just a little north of Seattle, like 30 minutes north of Seattle in the suburbs. But then I went to college in downtown Seattle at Cornish College of the Arts.
Okay, so
you really art school. I am Seattle.
Yeah. You know, I am such a huge fan of you and your work. You're always working and getting involved in such cool, fun projects. How did you get started in the industry as a young person?
Oh, man. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like Disney movies. Growing up watching Disney movies, I loved it. And that was sort of my introduction to like the structure of musical theater, right? And I grew up watching all the movies and mimicking the voices of all the Disney princesses, and then just started studying it in every possible way I could when I was in school, from like elementary school through college. I was just, you know, doing all of the things that I possibly could do. I remember my junior year of high school, I got into my sophomore year of high school, I got into the jazz choir, which was typically a junior senior class just because of the way credits and time lined up. And I deferred taking biology as a sophomore. And I was like, if I take this next year as a junior, could I take this extra elective now? And they helped me sort of like adjust my schedule so that I could take, do an extra year of jazz choir as a sophomore. And so then when I did take biology as a junior, all of the sophomores were like, so you failed biology and you're like a comeback kid. And I was like, no, I worked the system and I got an extra arts credit. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, huge arts person in school. That was like before school, during school, and after school, every day.
So you grew up sort of doing it.
Yeah.
That's so great. I know you've been busy this whole year. I've been following you on social media and all your cool virtual stuff you've done. I know that you got to perform a song last week in the Skivvies show live 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there you are.
Oh, I almost wore that shirt, but I wore another Proud Asian shirt.
How was it being back on stage in front of an audience?
You know, it was one of those weird experiences where I almost had thought like that I was sort of hoping that I would walk on stage and just, like break down and cry or something. You know, I was like, oh, I'm going to be so emotional. It's going to be really difficult. But it was really kind of like just getting back on a bike, as they say. Although last time I tried getting back on a bike, I fell off. So it was not that it wasn't that easy. So this was a little easier than that. But it was sort of like just getting back into it. And it felt completely different, but also very familiar. The audience was completely masked the whole time. Everyone on stage, we'd all been double vaccinated, and everyone on staff at the green room 42 was vaccinated. So it felt very safe, and people were getting their temperatures taken. You know, all the things that we're now strangely used to experiencing when we leave our little square footage of homes that we've all been hunkering in. But getting to perform again live with an audience was really incredible. And the second, we did 2 shows, and the second show definitely had a little bit more of a skivvies vibe, because I think because the audience wasn't allowed to drink during the show because they had to have their masks on, the second show was maybe a little bit more lucid up for a fun night of comedy and a little stripping. And they definitely were really hollering back at the stage, and that was kind of a here we are, like there's a live audience. I've gotten so used to staring at my computer and you know, and doing all these virtual readings too, where you know you're acting with people. I've gotten to do some readings with people that I have, like, if I knew that I was ever going to get to play Carrie Butler's daughter or Karen Olivo's sister, like I would have lost my mind. And it's like, oh man, it was over the computer. Doesn't make it any less cool. But, you know, I was like, oh, but it's, you know, you're acting with these people that you've looked up to and admired for so long. And I'm like staring at my script on the screen, making it look like I'm looking at them, but I'm really just reading these lines. And for some things too, if, you know, with the lag of Zoom and the lag of these live things, it's like if you need to cut someone off, I can't even listen to what my, you know, the other person is saying, because I have to read their lines to know that I need to come in, you know, 3 words before they're done speaking, because of the lag, so it won't actually sound like I'm cutting them off. And you know, so all these weird
we've all learned a new technique of acting, the Zoom acting technique.
The Zoom acting, she's strange. I mean, I'm very grateful, and I'm excited that this last year wasn't a complete bust of artistic creativity. You know, I've gotten to work on a ton of new shows over Zoom, and you know, just helping people create things and workshop things. So I'm glad that, you know, people were making lemonade out of some sour lemons this year.
I can't wait to see some of the work that's come out of this, because
I know everyone's just hunkered down. Yeah, so many people were like, well, we wrote this entire musical over this last year because I couldn't go anywhere or do anything else. So it's like, dang.
Soon, I hope. So pre-pandemic, you got to play some iconic roles, including Ariel in Little Mermaid. There you are. And Kim in Miss Saigon.
Oh my goodness, look at these slides.
What was it like taking on these roles that have so much history attached to them?
Oh my goodness. I mean, my Miss Saigon story was sort of my coming to my own. I had been living in Seattle, and I was non-equity, and my friend Brandon Ivy texted me from the East Coast at like 7 o'clock in the morning Seattle time, being like, I need you to submit something like of you singing anything from Miss Saigon, like ASAP. Eric Schaefer is looking for a new person to play Kim. And I was like, oh my God, because, you know, most people would always want to cast someone that had done the role before because it's such a difficult role. So, you know, okay, they've done it, so they can do it. And I was like, I'll never get to do it because no one wants to hire anyone without the experience. How do you get the experience without, you know, so I was like, okay, great. So I submitted a video on YouTube and sent it in that week, and got a call like a few days later from Eric himself, just being like, hey, we want to offer you the part. And I was like,
wow,
what? So it was really crazy. You know, I was just this nobody living in Seattle, you know, and so I owe Brandon a lot, and I owe Eric Schaefer a lot for wanting to take a risk. I mean, I thought at the least I would maybe get a call back and have to like fly out to DC to do, it was at the Signature Theater in DC, but they just, Yahtzeed on me, and I was like, whew, thank you.
Well, they were very lucky to have you. I mean, that role sort of has a history of creating stars like you know,
oh
and
my goodness.
you know, I have a long history with
yes.
as well. I'd be curious, when did you first see the show?
I never saw it until they did it in, oh my gosh, I was like a junior or senior. No, I think I was a junior in college, and I had never gotten the chance to see it. And I think I like had missed the tours when I was little, and I had never been to New York, and I saw that the Fifth Avenue Theater was doing it, like a local production, and I, without any money as a college kid, bought season tickets to the Fifth just to guarantee that I would get a seat at the show, because I figured that everyone was just as excited about it as I was. So I was like, I can't wait to buy these a la carte. I need to buy season tickets now with the money I don't have, just so I can guarantee I can see Miss Saigon. And then, of course, it was not like this impossible ticket to get. But so I saw it for the first time, and I was just,
Yeah.
I was like, man, I want to do this so bad. I would love to get to sing this music and be a part of this show. And I just never thought I was going to. So it was, and it was my first time like leading a show of that. I mean, that's such a massive role. And I didn't know a single person in the cast or the company. I, auditioned from a video, and I hadn't met anybody until I showed up. I didn't tell anybody it was happening until like okay, I guess it's real because I'm here, and I think it's too late for them to change their mind because they already flew me out here and I'm in the hotel. Okay, here's my first day of school picture, and I was like, ee! And people were like, what are you doing? How did you not? And I was like, I was waiting for them to cancel. I was waiting for them to just be like, sorry, that's not going to happen. But it was my first time sort of just really throwing myself into this complete unknown, because I just worked in Seattle for so long and I knew everyone there. And it was my first time sort of getting to step into being whoever I wanted to be without any preconceived notions of like, oh, Diana's like this. I was like, no, I'm a complete stranger and no one knows me. So I got to really sort of step into my own a little bit, and
you sure stepped in, and you won the Helen Hayes Award, which is just extraordinary and
still crazy,
so deserved.
Thank you. I mean, it was such a passion project show for me. It was such a dream come true sort of experience that I definitely threw, like, sometimes to a fault, 110% of myself into every single show. And I mean, I went through our run was like 2 months long, which is longer for a regional theater run. But I mean, I went through being taken to the emergency room for a busted kneecap in the middle of, I was about picking up my tam to go sing I'd Give My Life For You, and my kneecap just exploded, and hobbled the rest of the show, and we had to adjust things for people to like pick me up and run me to my next spot backstage because I couldn't run. It was crazy, but I was like, I will not call out unless you tell me I need to call out. I was like, I will. I left blood, sweat, and tears on that stage. And oh gosh, it's like, I look back at it. And then I did it one more time at the Flat Rock Playhouse the next year, like around the exact same time, right after moving to New York. Miss Saigon made me go, okay, this felt really good to like take a chance on myself and to believe in myself. So yeah, I'm going to do the thing I said I would never do. And I'm going to move to New York, and I have a month's notice, and I'm doing it. And I just like, hey, does anyone have a couch I can sleep on? And just did it.
Well, I think you got to open the national tour of Little Mermaid as Ariel. Well, actually, we have a little clip that I want to show first of you as Ariel, and then we'll talk about it.
I hate all these clips. Okay, go.
Be where the people are. I want to see them dancing, walking around on those, what do you call them? Oh, feet. Flipping your fins, you don't get too far. Legs are required for jumping, dancing, strolling along down what's that word again?
Oh, goodness.
Oh my God, it's so great.
I miss the exercise of that track, honey. Let me tell you what, I was so strong during that year.
I'm sure.
Man, flying, if you ever have to fly in a show, you are going to get like the strongest core of your life. I was just like, oh, and just burning calories every show. I could eat whatever I wanted. And it was just like, it was so fun.
So you got that show once you moved to New York, so you had to leave again?
Yep. Yeah. I think in the about 7 years I've been in New York, this 2020 is definitely the longest I've ever been in New York for one solid time. I've spent probably half of the time either on tour or out on contract. So
what was it like taking the show on tour and performing in all these different theaters across the country?
Oh my gosh, it was it like an actual dream come true. Yeah. I had so much fun. It was, I mean, again, you know, I started off just loving loving theater and loving musical theater and music because of Disney. So getting to do this was such a, I mean, every show I was just like, my inner child was just like exploding glitter and happiness. I was just so grateful. And then it ended up being a bigger deal because there were the people that were upset about my casting because I'm not actually a mermaid, and they found it very offensive, or whatever. You know, and that the Fifth Avenue Theater was actually the original producing theater for the first half of the tour, and which was great because it meant I got to go home when we were setting up the show, and we did like a month sit down for the holidays in Seattle. So I got to be home for Christmas and getting to like play Ariel. Are you kidding? Like, I mean, dreams just coming true. But they told me in my first initial press shots, you know, they flew me out to do some promo stuff, and they were like, Jen Paz played Cinderella for us a few years ago, and she's Filipino, and people were a little bit, there was some heat about, you know, an Asian woman playing Cinderella. So not saying that's going to happen, but that might happen if that, you know, just to like sort of prepare you. And I was like, okay, cool. And the very first comment when they released my photo, the very first comment within, 30 seconds, it's like my phone's like, bing, you've been tagged, you know. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then it was like, bloop. And it was like, I was so excited to see the show. I'm so disappointed. Since when is Ariel Asian? I will not be seeing this anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's starting. Like the first comment is exactly what they said was going to happen. And I was like, this is going to be a long year. Like, how do I do this? But immediately, like just as fast, so many people, you know, jumped on her comment being like, what is wrong with you? You know, how can you say this? And then I guess the only thing that really upset me was apparently she was a 4th grade teacher. And I was like, so if I was your student when I was in 4th grade, would you tell me that I can't do something because I'm not white? Like, you would say that as an educator for children. And that's like, I mean, you can't please everybody. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And that's fine. But I was like, you can't be an educator for children in Washington State. You have Asian kids in your class. You have to. You can't. So anyway, but that whole experience, I sort of like went, okay, I'm not going to read social media. I'm not going to read what people have to say because that's out of my control, and that's not my job. It's not my job to be popular with you. It's my job to do the show. And so, you know, I stopped reading social media things, and I went out on tour, and I had the best time ever. And about 6 months into the contract, I sort of forgot because no one ever said anything to my face. And that's another thing. If you want to have a conversation about casting or diversity or like, do I deserve this role or whatever it is, we can, you know, if you want to talk to me face to face, let's have a conversation. But if you're just going to hide behind your computer and, you know, cyberbully people, I'm not here for it. So I, you know, ignored it, and then forgot, because everyone that I met in person across the country, and especially all of the people of color or the kids of color that were like, I never thought I would see myself represented on stage like this in a role that's iconically a white girl, so I was like, yeah, this is really powerful. This is really important. This like just upped this experience to a whole level that I couldn't even imagine. And I forgot about my pact with myself to not read social media, and I accidentally sort of fell down the rabbit hole when someone had posted something, and you just can't unsee. It's so hard, when you like see your name and you're like, oh no, what are they saying? And it was horrible. It was so mean. And we were in Memphis, Tennessee, and I remember going to the theater, and I was like, at first I was just like, oh, it's fine. I've done this. It's cool. And I got to the theater and I start to put on, the wig that people were like, her wig isn't even the right color. Like it's not red enough. Cause they didn't want it to look like a fire engine cartoon hair. They wanted it to look like natural, so I was like, and I can't control that either, but I was like putting on my wig that people were upset about, putting on the costume that people were upset about, putting on my makeup that people were upset about, warming up my voice that people were upset about, putting on, getting ready for the show that everyone was so upset about. And all these things are out of my control. And I just started to have like this crazy panic attack. And I was like, I can't go on stage. I'm nervous for me. And I'm also nervous that I'm a detriment to the show. I'm like actually a disservice. I thought I was doing this amazing like thing. I thought I was like, breaking these new barriers and that it was important work. And now it's bad work. I'm like, actually, am I a detriment to the show? Or am I too distracting because of how I look? Am I, ruining it? Should I not be here? And I, started, I'm like, they're like 5 minutes to places. And I'm like, and one of my castmates walked by and I was just like, he's like, have a good show. And I was like, Dane, can you just hit me in the face? Like, talk me. I'm freaking out. And he's, got me grounded again. But I had the weirdest show and just, was super in my head. And it was a really great lesson too, though, of it doesn't, I felt this extra responsibility to be liked by the audience. Cause I was like, if you don't like me, if you don't like my Ariel, then the show's kind of going to be a really bad 3 hours for you. Because if you don't like me, if you don't care for the main character, you're going to have a really not a very good time. So I would work so hard. I just found myself working so hard to be like, you have to like me. I have to be the most sincere and I have to embody Ariel, and I have to, if you don't like me, then the show is ruined for you, and you don't like me because of me, not because of anything I'm doing, but because I'm not white. So how do I, and so I would like add all this extra pressure and like work even harder. And so it's just so backwards. And, it does kind of make you go, okay, as an actor, it's not your job to be liked. If someone doesn't like you, like that's out of your control. Like if you're doing you and you're doing what was set and you're doing your show, like that's really all you can do. And, being liked isn't really the point necessary. It was a weird
sure. And as a nation and as our community, I mean, everyone was so hyper aware of it and just disgusted by it because you are such a brilliant actor and singer, and no one is better suited for that role. I know you got extraordinary reviews all over the country, despite what the crazy social media people said.
Social media.
Yeah, you become a leader for us, as many of us have. No, it wasn't really our intention to be a spokesperson or a leader, but you were thrust into this and you've done it so beautifully. Do you think the casting landscape has changed for the better in recent years?
I do. I'm like cautiously optimistic. I never want to I'm always so afraid to like jinx it or something. Like if I say, yeah, I think it's really good. But I mean, obviously things like Hamilton really put a shift on casting. And I know that is such a specific example, and the way that show was cast and done is like super specific. But I think it did sort of kind of just point this really bright flashlight on like the most popular show on Broadway, being like, look, you don't care. Like once we say this person is Alexander Hamilton, this person is Eliza, this person is, Aaron Burr, these people that if you're like a history buff or you did your research, whatever, like, what they looked like in real life. And now you're seeing someone else that doesn't look anything like them. And you go, okay, great. But that's Hamilton and that's Eliza and that's Burr. Great. Got it. Like we're storytellers. We're all playing someone that we're not. So it was like, look, they're doing it and it works. Like once we set, and that was the same thing with Mermaid, it was like, once they said, okay, that's Ariel, great, got it. The kids never saw anything different. And
and the adults too, anyone who saw that show, you put your stamp on the roll and forever, that's going to be the Ariel in their minds.
Yeah. And that's what one of my favorite stories, when I was a junior in high school, we did The Music Man, and the guy that played Harold Hill was this Filipino guy in our school, Gerard, and he killed it. And our choir teacher's son at the time was like 3 maybe, and for his whole life he's now like 19 or something, and he's like 12 feet tall. It's crazy, but he saw something with The Music Man or something on TV or something years later, and was like, that's not Harold Hill. Like he was like, Harold Hill's supposed to be Gerard, like he's that Asian guy, like he's not supposed, who's this guy, like seeing the movie on TV or something. And I was like, that's, if and that's why things like having diversity on stage and having diversity even more so like on TV, on things that people see outside of just our world, but if we did have a more diverse casting system all around, like that's what the world looks like, that's what America looks like, and that's what it should look like, that's how it should be represented on TV, film, theater, all of these things, because like normalize that we are all different, even if it's a group full of a cattle call of all the tall, blonde, beautiful, leggy girls, like they don't all look exactly the same. Like we are all different looking, and we should celebrate that. And the more that we see that represented, it doesn't need to be such a big deal. So
absolutely.
I'm very hopeful that this year has been the start of many very difficult conversations that will come to light as things start. I know, I'm like, please don't go backwards. Please.
Well, Diana, as you know, our mission at Live and in Color is to connect diverse communities, to create new stage works. What does having an inclusive working environment mean to you? I
think that is like, it goes beyond just who the audience sees on stage, but I think having a diverse team behind the scenes too, like having men, women, non-binary, just everyone, like everyone being represented in the space of whatever show or concert or whatever it is that you're working on, or just even in your organization. But I think it is like having all of those extra voices, all of those extra experiences, all those personal things that only that person could know, having that diversified from the ground up, from not just, the actors on stage. I think that is what diversity should be for, everything. Everything. I think that would make everything a lot better.
Yeah. I think we have some questions from our viewers.
Ooh.
Let's see what we got here. So,
hi, Dewey.
Okay. Lori says, what was it like being directed by Dev in Xanadu?
All right, guys. Dev, turn your camera off. Get off. So much fun. We had so much fun.
Well, so just for our viewers, Diana got to play the Olivia Newton-John in Xanadu. There's a picture of you in your roller skates.
Roller skates. That was a fun day too. That photo shoot we were all like, "Can we do this without falling?" Well,
you were already an amazing roller skater, but you were. I have to say, casting casting you in the show was a real coup for me, and I felt like it was just a performance that was unbelievable. I mean, you sing, the comedy you do, it was all of it was there. So
thank you. I was nervous, and I just remember you being like, your Australian accent was so great. I was like, oh my God, because I was like, this is so offensive. I'm so sorry to anyone from Australia. Let me butcher your language. I was just like, oh my God. So I was like, okay, they thought that I knew how to do that. Good. Great. I worked very hard. But I mean, we had so much fun. It's such a kooky show, and we had a limited cast. We had just what was it, like the five of us?
Five cast members, yeah.
And which I also love, because then it's it reminds me of like the earlier days of theater, right? I was just talking to some students the other day about this, where, I was like, do the non-equity theater. It makes you like, you have to be more creative if you don't have the multi-million dollar budget, like, especially when you're young and you're starting. It's like, you're so creative and hungry, and like, you figure out ways to do it. So things like a 5-person cast of Xanadu, I mean, it wasn't a non-ec contract, but it was like this, dive in, and you got to get creative, and you're going to have, people are playing multiple roles that normally you wouldn't be playing, and figuring out how to tell the story and fill the space. And I just thought it was really fun.
It was
like
fun.
Roller skating and and the 5 of us were all thankfully very, very close. We became very fast friends, and we, like, everyone just loved each other. And so
really a brilliant company of singers and comedians. So
yeah, it was so it was fun. Yes.
Let's take another question. Sophie Glassman says, what is your favorite thing about tour life?
I loved getting to explore all the different foods of each city. I am such a food person. I am like that is my love language. And I love food. And because Mermaid was so physically exhausting and so strenuous, and I was so paranoid about, keeping my voice in perfect shape as much as I could on a 8-show a week schedule, when your one day off is on an airplane traveling to another state. I didn't do a lot outside of the show itself. I would mostly live in my hotel rooms every city. So the main thing I would get to do is eat, because I had to do that. And so usually it was like between Saturday and Sundays, matinees, like between shows, is when I got to really sort of explore a city and go get like a just giant meal, because I'd be starving, and I would just like house a giant rack of ribs and like a baked potato and a side of beans, and in Louisiana. And I was just like, this is the life. So I loved it. I loved getting to just explore and all these places I wouldn't have been in. So
right. Yeah. I think we have one more. Let's take one more question. So Lizzie Whitehouse says, what would be the theme song of your life? Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Lizzie, that is a good question. I don't know. Oh my gosh. I have no idea. Dev, do you have any idea? Do you know of a good theme song?
No.
When I was really little, I would sing everything I did. Shocker. And no one was surprised that this is what I wanted to do with my life and my family. And I would leave the kitchen table and to excuse myself to go to the bathroom or whatever it was. And I would always sing, my poor sister, I would always sing, after these messages, I'll be right back. Ding! And I would run away, like as fast as I could.
I think that's the perfect theme song for you.
I think that will be my theme song, is that Nickelodeon or whatever, like commercial tag that would happen on my like Saturday morning cartoons when I was 6. And and so no matter what happens, if I just need
these messages, Diana Huey will be right back. I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Lizzie. Now I know. Oh my gosh.
We are out of time. I told you it would go fast.
It goes so fast.
I know. But before we go, for our audience, please consider supporting our organization by going to liveandincolor.org to donate. All money raised goes towards our amazing artists in developing their new work. Please like and also please like and subscribe to our channels to see more amazing episodes like this one with Diana. Also, we have some very exciting news. May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And as such, we will be hosting 4 very special episodes of Be Our Guest to celebrate Asian artists and activists who are changing the future of theater in the world, just like Diana here. In our first episode next week, we will be talking to Diane Phelan and Albert Gerzon from the #Racism is a Virus campaign, and Nandita Shenoy and Angel Desai from the Asian American Performers Action Coalition. And there will also be a very special musical performance by Hamilton's Mark de la Cruz and Wicked's Shobha Narayan. You won't want to miss it. And the following 3 episodes are going to be incredible as well. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Thank you, Diana. You know, I'm your biggest fan, and
Dev, it's so nice to see your face.
Will you lead us in a little toast as we say goodbye?
Of course. Cheers, all. Oh, my glass. It's randomly like 80 degrees in New York today, so I'm like, good. Let's be on camera. I'm like, just like, I'm dewy, like my cup, clearly. Yeah. But cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you
See
for
you all
having
next
me.
week. Bye-bye.
Bye.